Eric Bieniemy comes with a pretty solid background, not only as a player but also as a coach. Got one of the greatest nicknames of all time. Eric Sleeping with Bieniemy was given by my man Chris Berman, who is a master of giving those hot names. You know what I'm saying? I'll never forget that, real talk, because I mean I knew who he was, but that name that cemented him in in football commentary lore, because I think most people who watch and follow, they remember specifically who that was, and he may not have been one of the top running backs in the league at the time, but every time he popped off, you kind of knew that was coming. So look, Bieniemy's done a great job in Kansas City. I mean, there's a lot of questions in particular about his role, and I think a lot of guys throw shade at him because they say Andy Reid is the offensive genius, but from what it is that we've heard and what it is that we've seen, Eric Bieniemy does a lot for installing offenses, a lot for game planning, and he has actually called plays in games. And if he's called plays in games for a high-powered Kansas City offense, I can guarantee you the guy knows what it is that he's doing. Being given high praise by Patrick Mahomes himself, the guy who, for all intent and purposes, might go down as one of the best quarterbacks that we've seen. Pat Mahomes actually says that Eric Bieniemy has had a lot to do with his progression, with his understanding of how to play the game and all of the nuances and details that a coach would need to be able to impart on his star quarterback. Actually, a young rookie quarterback, if you really think about it. Eric Bieniemy, I think, checks all the boxes for what it is that we're looking for. If you want somebody who's going to be offensive minded, but also even from Andy Reid's own mouth, the guy is a leader of men, which is again, getting back to what Jim was saying earlier. That is the anti-Gase. I don't necessarily believe that whatever the guy's name is, excuse me, who was our coach. I don't think he was actually even in any conversations about being a leader of men. And I think it actually led to some difficult issues within the locker room that actually caused some player personnel issues. I think we wouldn't have had some of the issues with Jamal Adams that we had if whatever that guy's name wasn't the coach in particular. So listen, there's a lot to be said for who was here, but if we're going to have really meaningful conversations about who it is that we want to bring in, there's going to be a lot of names that people throw around. There's going to be a lot of guys that actually have excellent pedigree, come from coaching trees that actually speak to names and extended periods of time where they're learning from the best. I think Eric Bieniemy actually fits right in that mold, guys. Just coming from someone who actually is a player's type of coach, being a player for 10 years and actually playing at a fairly high level for a period of that time. I think he's going to bring some perspective to the locker room that maybe some other guys might not necessarily bring in, but also he's had success in building an offense. He's had success with I'm not going to say building a quarterback, but Pat Mahomes is in a level all by himself. I mean, the guy's in a different stratosphere, but for a guy who's as supremely talented as Patrick Mahomes is, to say that Eric Bieniemy had a lot to do with his growth and with his upward trajectory, I think we could ask for a lot less. We couldn't ask for any more than that from a guy who, even if it does end up being mentoring Sam Darnold, I think it's actually going to be a pretty solid situation to have in our coaching staff. So look, I want to go into all the numbers and all of that. I'm really excited about the hire specifically. I mean, has been one of the names that have been bouncing around the league for years now, as far as being head coaching candidates, and one of the guys that they are saying is up next. I really think he has a high opinion, or the league has a high opinion of this guy, and coming in, based on where it is that I think that we're going. Eric Bieniemy, man, look, I know he's a fan favorite. I want to say that he has to also be one of Joe Douglas's favorites, because he was actually the very first hire, the very first interview that we did. So I'm looking forward to seeing if this guy can shake it out, man. I mean, I do believe not only will he be able to come in and put his mark and his stamp on this offense, but he'll be able to build a staff that I think that rounds out into maybe one of the better ones in the league. I mean, I kind of have a feeling that a lot of guys will want to come and play, want to come and coach with Eric Bieniemy because of, not only the players that we have, but also with Joe Douglas and knowing what it is that we have the ability of putting together with so much draft capital, with so much cap space. So yeah, Eric Bieniemy this week in the spotlight. Like I said, I'm going to keep this kind of short and sweet. I'm hoping that we've had an opportunity to recognize this guy, especially a Super Bowl winning offense. Man, Eric Bieniemy in the spotlight. What do you guys think?
All right, Jimmy, let's start with you, and then I'll circle back around.
I have my reservations, obviously. It's something that I've looked into. I don't think he's a bad guy. Like a lot of the rumor mill going around about the Deshaun Watson stuff, it's actually more plausible than a lot of people think. I wouldn't mind Bieniemy at all if that came true and we have Deshaun Watson, somebody that doesn't need to be molded, somebody that doesn't need to be mentored or coached up or fixed or anything like that. I would 100% be on board with Bieniemy. And I have nothing to say against. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, Patrick Mahomes is just saying what he's supposed to say. I don't know the guy. He very well could be, an integral part of how Patrick Mahomes has progressed. One of the things in Patrick's statement that I like most of all is he said Bieniemy taught him how to be a man. And I appreciate that. And I really do. My concern is I don't think we're keeping Sam Darnold, but if we ended up doing it, I don't know if a running back coach turned OC is the guy I want fixing a quarterback, or if he's worked with Mahomes and if Mahomes is being 100% with us, then a rookie quarterback coming in, maybe. I mean, it could work because whether we get Lawrence or Fields, whichever one falls whichever place, then both of those guys can run. So if you have a running back guy that knows how to teach a kid how to handle being a runner, it could work. I refuse to get in because every year Bieniemy's name gets brought up, everybody starts bringing up all the bogus and not just personal stuff from way back when. And I am a very firm believer in guilt or innocent until proven guilty. So I don't even care about any of that stuff from 30 years ago. It's not my business. Obviously, he's a good person. If Andy Reid says he's good enough to be his OC, I trust Andy Reid. So I don't want to hear anybody talking about all the personal stuff from Colorado or whatever the case may be. Keep it about football. I just have my concerns about football, and I think it's not that I think Bieniemy would be bad at it. It's that I think there are other candidates out there that are better for the position that we're in. So that's my thoughts.
In regards to Eric Bieniemy, I would like to see him as head coach of the New York Jets. I really am not paying any mind to the whatever happened 20 years ago, because I don't think that has any bearing on whether or not he's a competent head coach. And the question for me is that I want to know what exactly he brings to the table. When we watch the Kansas City Chiefs play and you see him on the sidelines and he's barking orders and he's calling out stuff, it's hard for me to not believe that he is not in charge of some play calling or installing the offense in some capacity. So for me, I want a guy in here who's going to be a leader of men. There's somebody who's going to come in here and who's going to command the room. And most of all, somebody who's going to not just concentrate on one facet of the game, but all three facets of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. Because for me, that's the most important. So it's frustrating for me to sit here and to think that, Eric Bieniemy cannot be the answer to the problems that we have, because, I just think that if we are going to go with an offensive-minded head coach, he's somebody who I would consider. Now, I've also said in the past that I want somebody who can come in and who can build a program. Now, has Eric Bieniemy built a program, or has he been a part of building a program under Andy Reid? Yeah, I think so. I mean, take a look at the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, they've got a pretty solid football program going over there in which they compete every single year. And Patrick Mahomes has pretty much put them over the top. So the question to me is that can somebody like that come over here with this New York Jets franchise and help a young quarterback, whether it's a Trevor Lawrence or a Justin Fields, reach that type of potential? I'm not asking him to come in and to turn the next quarterback of the New York Jets into Patrick Mahomes. That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, can you come here and can you turn our franchise quarterback, whoever that may be, whether we decide to stick with Sam Darnold, whether we draft Justin Fields, whether we draft Trevor Lawrence, whether we draft Kyle Trask, whether we draft Zach Wilson, or whoever the sexy name seems to be. Can you turn that player into a legitimate franchise quarterback? Can you turn that kid into a playmaker? Can we finally put some points on the board as an offense and not have to sit here and have our defense spend 75% of the game on the field having to keep the team in it because the offense can't score? And I know, Kevin, you're laughing over there, but it's true. I've foamed at the mouth about this for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
All right, because
I'm not denying
the
what you're
past
saying.
5 years, the Jets have been offensively inept. Okay, I mean, there is no amount of Viagra in the world that could jumpstart this offense. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, the Jets offense is probably like the worst case of erectile dysfunction I've ever seen in my entire life. Now look, if Eric Bieniemy coming over here as head coach is going to be that huge little blue pill that's finally going to jumpstart this offense and bring some electricity and some excitement to the New York Jets offense, then fine. I'm all for it. But I'm sick and tired of the same run, pass, punt. Run, pass, punt. Run, pass, punt. Run, pass, punt. Run, pass, interception. All right? How much more can we continue to go down the same rabbit hole in which we rely upon the New York Jets defense to win them games when their offense should be fully capable of being able to put points on the board no matter who they face? That is the $64,000 question, ladies and gentlemen.
I agree.
And if Eric Bieniemy is the guy who can come in and be that lightning rod and get this offense started and turn whoever may be the quarterback of the New York Jets into that franchise quarterback that we have all been hoping and praying that we finally draft, then sign me up.
I wanna throw this in because this is and both of you guys phenomenal points. And just being in the spotlight doesn't necessarily mean that this is my favorite choice or either. So let's just understand that first. But there's something that I did want to recognize about Bieniemy, especially when we're looking at how that Kansas City offense is constructed. I mean, they've got playmakers everywhere, literally, but so do we to a certain point. Yes, we have some players that need to be elevated slightly by being in a much more open offense. But the one thing, and I think that this maybe I don't want to overlook this more than just making sure that this is recognized. They have an all-pro tight end in Travis Kelce, and we have a high caliber tight end here in Herndon. So I mean, we've got kind of interchangeable guys that if what it is that we are going to do is have an offense that is not built to run through the slot receiver like our offense was here. And I mean, I've said that a couple of times, and I've had some guys give me pushback. But the fact of the matter is that even when Crowder got hurt, we actually saw quite a bit of what's the kid's name? Berrios. We started to see a lot more action from him because the offense was either coming through this 560-year-old running back or it was coming through the slot. And that to me is going to be a really huge difference between what it is we say. I think that's Methuselah's older brother. You know what I'm saying? Like way older. Look, enough respect to Frank Gore. I'm gonna keep it real. Enough respect to Frank Gore, but Frank Gore shouldn't have been our starting running back, and he shouldn't have been the first option on off. But what I think Bieniemy does bring is a much more wide open and much more balanced attack.
If he can just tell me he's going to run a play action or two every now and then, I'm happy.
Look, we're not going to have Pat Mahomes to CJ's point. We're not going to have Pat Mahomes at quarterback, but there is only one Pat Mahomes. So what it is that we need to have an offense that's going to be able to function through whoever it is that we have. And because we have those certain weapons around the outside, on the inside and the interior, and possibly coming out of the backfield, I think having what would be considered at least a respectable offensive mind, not necessarily a genius like that dude that we just fired a little while ago. I think that bodes well for us, and I'm really excited about that possibility. Even if, again, like I said, he may not be my first choice, I still kind of have that, I'm not sure if Bieniemy is going to come here kind of feeling about this. But if he does, oh man, I'm really excited about what it is that we're going to look like.